Yes. So just to just a minute, just a minute, just a minute, just a minute. Okay, okay, yes. Yes, just to clarify, so since there was a question, so all these are modern poets and writers, okay? T.S. Eliot, James Joyce, and Yeats, all these are modern poets. So even the next, even the poets which I am referring to next. Ezra Pound. Ezra Pound is another very fine poet. So this is a poem called as T.S. Eliot's poem is Love Song of Alfred J. Prufrock. James Joyce, Ulysses. Then W.B. Yeats' Second Coming. Second Coming is the title of the poem. Okay, Ezra Pound, he has written independent poems. So this is one of the poem. And the days are not full enough, and the nights are not full enough. Life slips by the like a field mouse, not sheep shaking the grass. So here the meaning is, we live our life, but we will not be able to do anything for the world. Our lives are insignificant. So that kind of tone can be seen here. Ezra Pound, he's an amazing poet as well, because if you have read, most of these writers have written poem about Ezra Pound. And they have dedicated their poems for Ezra Pound. Right? So he was one of the initial person to shape modernism. Okay, then Virginia Woolf, Mrs. Dalloway. Her other novels as well, follows this. Not the essays. Virginia Woolf is, also famous for her essays. For we had only the literary works I'm speaking about, her novels, right? So not the essays. Then Kafka. Kafka, in fact, was before 1900s. Okay? You read Kafka. Where do you read Kafka? Where did you read Kafka?
The Hunger Artist.
The Hunger Artist.
The Hunger Artist.
Yes, the Hunger Artist. You read the Hunger Artist of Kafka, right? So the same individual. He has written Metamorphosis. We'll speak about this work a little later. Right? So these are the examples. Auden again. You have read the Shield of Achilles, but this is a poem called as Musée de Biox Arts, where he says, about suffering, they were never wrong. The old masters, how well they understood its human position, how it takes place while someone else is eating or opening a window or just walking dully along. So it's again about human suffering and how it is very irregular and all those things. So these are modern poets, modern writers, and their works. Postmodernist. So postmodernism as a theory became popular somewhere around 1970s and 1960s, 60s, 70s. But the features of postmodernism can be seen before us. Okay? And there are many postmodern writers before people knew what postmodern was. Before they knew what postmodern is. Okay? So those writers we will discuss. One, Friedrich Nietzsche. Friedrich Nietzsche is, he's very influential philosopher of 19th century. Okay, so he has written Beyond Good and Evil. So basically, what he has given series of philosophical, ideas. But the idea behind his work is that there is in the the world has the things do not have actual meaning, but among what is given to us we have to make best utilization of the resources, and how to be Superman, Uberman. So these things he has spoken. Okay, Superman, not the character of Superman, but the superhuman. Right? So that is, we have lived in a certain pattern so far, and how to live beyond pain, how to live beyond, you know, the emotions human beings feel. So that is what he mentions as Superman or Ubermensch. Then there is Albert Camus. Right? He has written novels as well. Novels like The Stranger, The Client, not Client, The Trial. Right? But he has written this particular work called as Myth of Sisyphus. Right? So in this Myth of Sisyphus, he speaks about the myth of Sisyphus. Let me explain it. What is it's from Greek story. Sisyphus is a character, and he has given a very unique punishment. The unique punishment is, he has to carry this big boulder from on a mountain. So there is a mountain, right? So every morning he has to, push the rock, the boulder, till the edge of the mountain. The moment he get it to the edge of the mountain, the boulder will fall again. He is condemned to do that his entire life. Okay? So he does something. Just when he reaches the top of the mountain, the boulder will fall again. So the idea is, his action has no meaning at all. Okay? There's no meaning for his action. Every day, he pushed the boulder just to drop it back. Okay? Same way, our actions do not have a meaning. What was the idea before? What he says, but the Camus, what he says is, that is existentialism. Existentialism existed long before. But what he says is, if Sisyphus attach some notion to that boulder, he is emotionally somehow relate that boulder to something else that does not feel like a tedious task. Even though his task is meaningless, if he provide a meaning to it, then he will feel happy while doing it. That is the nature of human beings. So, now you can notice what is postmodernism. So he is a postmodern writer. Okay. So the fundamental nature of the human beings are such way that, it should not have a meaning. It doesn't have a meaning, but still that doesn't mean, we should cease to exist. We make best utilization of what is given to us. That is myth of Sisyphus. And Douglas Adams. If you have visited to department, you have seen this book on my table, the fat book, the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, Douglas Adams. Hey, so he also, when we look at things in a wider perspectives, we notice that the things we usually are concerned about are not a big deal at all. Yeah. What we are concerned about grades, we are concerned about some material aspects. So they are not bigger deal at all, but still they make sense. A towel, what is that? Bath towel, even that has an importance, though we feel that it is a significant. So these times, then Samuel Beckett waiting for Godot. So a person, two people are waiting for Godot. Who is Godot? We don't know. Hey, whether he will come or not, we don't know. When he will come, we don't know. But they are waiting. So that way. So these are the postmodernists, or before the theory. But the postmodernists after the theory, the people who have contributed to form the theory of postmodernism are these people. Roland Barthes. He has written two important works. One is Death of the Author. It's an essay. Another is mythology. So he speaks about how mythology comes into existence. Death of the author, that means we should not worry about what author says. If there is a work, you shouldn't worry about what author's perspective, because this particular work might mean different things to different people. Right? If you have to make best of it, you shouldn't worry about author. That is, a work does not have its own meaning. It means different things to different individuals. The same way, myths are created. The best example is, you might have seen, many people wearing hoodies of Che Guevara, or stickers of Che Guevara on the bikes. So the idea of Che Guevara is, Che Guevara was a revolutionary fighter. Okay, so those are them. Che Guevara was, he was a revolutionary fighter. So individuals who are having those stickers, they might not even know who Che Guevara is, but he becomes a representation of rebellion. So I am a rebel. So they are making a statement to Che Guevara. They might not know who Che Guevara is at all. Many of you, might not have heard, but when you search Che Guevara, when you see his picture, oh, I have seen this. You'll remember. So this is how the meanings are created. Then there is Derrida, who has written the work of Maudsley. So Neil Gaiman, he's also a postmodernist. He has written American Gods and so on. Okay, so this is about postmodern. So even if you don't understand, I have example for other avenues as well. One is painting. Okay, let us see these three paintings. Just observe these three paintings. So the first painting, yeah. So the first painting, it's a classical painting. So this is how painting was done till 19th century. Right? It has to look realistic. It has to be elegant. All this. Now look at the second painting. So this is my favorite painting. The Starry Night. Right? So here you can see it is not realistic. Purposefully it is drawn in such a way that those lines has to be seen. It's a modern painting. Okay. Now look at the postmodern painting, a minimalist painting. Right? There is no original meaning for it at all. Okay. Whatever you understand, you understand. So the meaning is completely assumed. So this is postmodernist. So this is how classical or romantic, modern, and postmodern. By this comparison, you can understand. Next, music. So classical music is usually arranged in this way. It has a proper arrangement. It is played in a particular manner. Okay. So the example for modern music, the rock music. So the example is, when I say this, don't think about lyrics. I'm not speaking about lyrics. I'm speaking about the pattern of music. Okay. There is Jailhouse Rock by Elvis, then Led Zeppelin's Stairway to Heaven, and Within You Without You by Beatles. So if you listen to this music, you will know the difference. That these are modern music. Okay. So they are not unconventional. Okay. So what is considered as postmodern music? It is Highway to Hell by AC/DC or Smell Like Teen Spirit. So there is, they celebrate chaos. The chaotic music becomes the primary, celebration. Right? Even you see the poster of Smell Like Teen Spirits. So things are blurred. The statement which is being made is, the things are blurred. Everywhere in the world, things are blurred. So that is the statement which they are making. So this is postmodern music. Okay, movies. This is the Wizard of Oz, for example. So this is a classic movie. Starts at one point, ends at one point. The story is set in a same tonality from beginning to end. Classic example of movie. Okay? So this is this is how it is. A modern movie is probably Kurosawa's Dreams, where the entire movie is actually 10 short movies. Okay, 10 short movies are played together, it makes one movie. So this is a modern style movie. Whereas postmodern movie, you can see that Inception. There was a movie called as Inception. What does this movie speaks about? The movie speaks about there is no reality. Right? The reality itself is assumed. Okay. So look at the poster. There is a road in the bottom and there is road in the top. Okay. And the vehicles are moving at the top. So this way. So this is how it is. Then we will. So next portion is also given in your syllabus. Okay, what are some of the concepts, some of the movements during modernism, postmodernism? Okay, so only the modernism is given, not many concepts of postmodernism is given, but we will discuss about some of all of them, which are given for your text. There are many movements, only the things which are mentioned in our text we will discuss. First one is impressionism. Okay, so it started. See, one thing which we have to remember is painting and writing, though they are very different, they are very closely associated philosophically. That is, what is introduced in painting is adapted to literature as well. What is introduced in literature is adapted in painting as well. Okay, so that way they are very closely associated. Many of the literary concepts were originally painting concepts. That one example is impressionism. Hey, impressionism, you can see. So they give. So these are the strands of reality. So that is lines. So the lines are very visible. Strokes are very visible. Hey. So a part of the painting should be, it shouldn't look like a whole. It shouldn't look like a picture. Hey. So you create a you create a distance. Through that distance, you create beauty. Okay. So the same way it is written in Heart of Darkness. It's a literary contrast to it is not contrast. A literary example for impressionism is Heart of Darkness. Okay. So it is not parts actually; it's whole by itself. But still, we feel that uh, this is a separate line. This is a separate line. We feel so. The storyline is it starts at once and it ends at once. There is no juggle there, right? Whereas in other forms, though there are fractions, the juggling of the timeline is can be found. Okay. Then there is naturalism. So if you see here, this was earlier, usually the earlier paintings used to be romantic. That means, things has to be beautified. Naturalism, they said that, things has to be displayed as they are. You shouldn't try to beautify anything. Okay? So that is the concept of naturalism. The same way was, in fact, it was first introduced in writing, then introduced in painting. In writing, all the works of Russian writers are example for naturalism. Tolstoy, Chekhov, Gorky, right? Even German writer Brecht. So they belongs to this naturalism. That is character should be placed in their own natural situations. It shouldn't look exaggerated. Okay, Chekhov's Cherry Orchard is one example. Cherry Orchard in particular, why I mentioned is because it's there for our syllabus. We are about to discuss it a little later. Then there is Cubism. The name itself states, it is, we see things around us with a familiarity, with familiar images. Okay. So triangles, circles, squares, rectangles. With that only they used to paint. So if you're, I have given only one example. You can search by yourself for Cubism, and you'll find other examples. Very interesting examples as well for Cubism. Cubism in writing. George R.R. Martin's Game of Thrones. It's an example. How it is related? Let me explain. Right. What is Cubism in writing is characters are given. Characters are not described. They do not give a description of characters. Each character speak for themselves. Okay. So here, just like in painting, there are box, different boxes, making a big picture, making a complete picture. In stories also, in stories and novels also, each character is a different entity. They describe themselves. Description of them is not given. And one character, another character, another character. After all that, it becomes a story. So that can be seen in games. Then Dadaism. Dadaism is another movement in modernism. What the Dadaism says is, it speaks against war. It speaks against Dadaism is, it speaks against authority. It speaks against, all this evil things. So the Dadaism, original Dadaism, the modern Dadaism is majorly it focused on war and authoritarianism. Whereas the new Dadaism, the Dadaism which is used today, speaks about neo-colonialism. That is, countries like America having power over rest of the world, or a selected rich, wealthy population controlling rest of the population. So that is new Dadaism. Okay, pain, Dadaism.
Present Dadaism
Speaks about the new situations, that is one country controlling another country. Neo-colonialism. Neo-colonialism. Okay. So example for this, Shield of Achilles, which you have read. I'm not going into detail. Then there is expressionism. Okay, what is expressionism? Expressionism is, it is that, things has to be exaggerated. In naturalism, there should be no exaggeration. In expressionism, things has to be exaggerated for us to give an impression. To feel something, it has to be exaggerated. So that is what. So in paintings, we see that. In this work, example is Ulysses, James Joyce Ulysses. So I said, I will discuss about it later, right? Now I'll discuss. So in Ulysses, what happens is, right? So Ulysses, I'm not sure if you are familiar with the character Ulysses. If you are, very good. If you are not, I'll explain. So in Greek epic, there are two Greek epics. Right? One is Iliad and Odyssey. In Iliad, the primary character is, who is the primary character in Iliad? Because you have read it. Huh? No. It is, Achilles. Achilles is in the sense, it is like Mahabharata. Okay, it's not like, primary character is not, doesn't mean only, the story is spoken about only one character, not that kind. But, it's like Mahabharata, which has many characters, many stories intertwined with one another, right? So, but, one of the major characters is, the primary character is Achilles. That is Achilles and Hector. Achilles is a primary character. In the second work is Ulysses is the primary character. In the Odyssey, Ulysses is the primary character. Right? He has taken the Greek story, and adapted it to today's world, but in a very different manner. That is, in their Ulysses, in the Greek Ulysses, Ulysses had a wife called Ithaca. Ulysses had went for a war and did not come back for 20 years. Okay, so he did not come back for 20 years. There, his wife Ithaca waited for 20 years, though she had many pressure to marry some other people. She waited. Somehow she dodged everything, and she waited for her husband for 20 years, even when there was no news if he is alive or dead. Whereas in Ulysses, so the primary character is Ulysses, his wife every day goes out with some other man. Right? So that contrast he makes. Okay, these kind of works are written. So that is James Joyce Ulysses. Then there is surrealism. Surrealism is impossible things are displayed. Right? So when you present impossible things, you should understand something about reality. Right? So that is the idea of surrealism. In literature, it is Kafka's Metamorphosis. That is, Metamorphosis speaks about how human beings change, how human beings go through certain experiences, and the character is changed, the personality is changed. That is Kafka's Metamorphosis. But the story is that a man becomes a fly, an insect. So the reality is represented through impossible things. So that is surrealism. Okay. Then we have magic realism. So the elements of magic is used to tell certain things. So that is magic realism. The example for in writing is Midnight's Children. It is spoken about the post-independent India, the situation of post-independent India, by using elements of magic. Right? So these are the movements in modernism. In postmodernism, it's not very clear, but there are movements as well. Something like minimalism. Right? So we saw that minimalism painting, right? So there are movements as well, but they are neither given in your text nor which is very well developed theories. Right? We can notice it, however. Right? Some things like minimalism, even in movies that is adopted. Okay, in there is a director in Kerala, Adur Gopal Krishnan. So Adur Gopal Krishnan is a director from Kerala. His movies are actually minimalist movies. That means there should be nothing which is not relevant to the happenings on the stage. That means there should be no background, and there should be no calendars on the wall. The switch should not be seen. Only the human being should be on the screen. So that is minimalism. That is about minimalism. So these are the movements which are which are discussed in your text. Okay. So I am ending the presentation. You can ask questions if you have any, or any clarifications can be asked. Okay. I'll give few minutes for you to